Panasonic have just announced two new LUMIX S-Series cameras. So with these new announcements, I want to take a look through a few of the different S-Series cameras that Panasonic have and explore the differences to help you decide on which camera you may want to buy or rent for your next project. So let's get into it. Starting with the S5 II and the S5 IIX, which actually share quite a lot, including their body design, apart from the S5 IIX's blackout paint job. They both have the same 24 megapixel full frame sensor, which can capture some excellent looking images. They are both jam-packed with video and photography features, have great colour profiles and science, fantastic stabilisation, and these cameras were a big step forward for Panasonic's autofocus system, with them both featuring a phase detect and contrast hybrid system. However, there are some clear differences between them, and really what it comes down to is the X is the more video focused out of the two. The X is just £200 extra over the S5 II and does everything the S5 II does with these extra features on top. This includes external SSD recording, all internal recording formats, ProRes up to 5.9K in 42HQ to an external SSD, 10-bit 42 SNQ options, external RAW output, live streaming capabilities, and USB tethering. Otherwise, as we've said, they share the same excellent range of features. For some more photography-focused users, the £200 price saving may be worth it, to put into a new lens or other accessory. But for more video-focused users, I would strongly suggest the X version. These cameras are both priced incredibly well now considering their specs and what they can do. Even though they are a couple of years old now, they can still produce excellent images and are fantastic to use. Up next we have the S5 IIX and the S1 IIE. The S1 IIE is one of Panasonic's two new cameras that were recently released, and it surprisingly does share quite a lot with the S5 IIX. The biggest thing that they share is their sensor specifications, which are very similar. They are both full frame 24 megapixel sensors with very similar looking images, base ISOs and readout times. However, the S1 II does have some clear physical differences to the S5 IIX, but they are certainly very similar in overall design. They are both dust and splash resistant and have a nicely integrated fan system for more reliable recording times. For these example side-by-side shots we are using an S5 II, but they are similar as we already mentioned, so of course it's still worth mentioning the S5 IIX's blackout paint job compared to the S1 IIE's typical regular S-Series one. The S1 IIE features the same updated body design that the S1 II and the S1R II also have. It's a bit bulkier than the S5 II cameras, but still feels compact, dense and nice in the hand. On the left side of the S1 IIE you now have a new mode dial where you can switch between stills, video and slow and quick modes really quickly, which the S5 IIs don't have. Your different mode dials and the media door can be locked as well, whereas the S5 IIX's cannot. The top control dial and rear AF buttons have also changed position ever so slightly. I think the dial position change is a great one. Similar to the S1H, the S1 IIE also has a front record button, which the S5 IIs do not, and this comes in really helpful when filming. Next we have an upgraded massive OLED viewfinder and a tilty fully rotating LCD, which means you can tilt the monitor up while still having cables plugged in. This mechanism should be standard across mirrorless cameras, as it makes the camera so much better to use in a range of different situations. The cameras share a very similar array of inputs and outputs, however the S1 IIE's covers are now individual versus the S5 II's, which can cover multiple ports. This can result in slightly cleaner rig configurations. The S1 IIE also has a new shutter closing function, which you can toggle on and off that the S5 II's don't. In the menu you can toggle whether you want this to be open or closed when you power down the camera. It's rated up to 400,000 actuations and has a very satisfying clunk to it. The S5 IIX has a dual SD card slot, whereas the S1 IIE has a single SD card and a CF Express Type B slot. There are a bunch of affordable Type B cards now, and I personally find them much better and more reliable than SD. They're a faster, more modern media type, so in my opinion a better media to invest into and use if you can. The S1 IIE also has improved tally lamps over these cameras. The S5 IIX was already a fantastically featured video camera with an excellent range of recording formats and features, but the S1 IIE elevates that even more. The S1 IIE features everything that the S5 IIX does, but with a range of key video focused improvements. The first has to do with the ProRes formats. The S1 IIE can record ProRes and ProRes RAW internally to CF Express Type B cards or externally to a USB-C SSD, whereas the S5 IIX can only record ProRes to an external SSD, not internally, and ProRes RAW can only be recorded externally via HDMI with a compatible Atomos recorder. This is a pretty big addition, as it makes shooting higher quality codecs much easier and more reliable. The S1 IIe can also shoot 4K and 6K 60 using the full width of the sensor in a 2.4:1 aspect ratio, versus the S5 II, which can only record up to 4K 60 with an APS-C crop. The S1 IIe also now features false colour, which is a fantastic addition to see, and something that is unfortunately missing in the S5 II cameras. The S1 IIe, S1 II and S1R II will also be getting the ability to shoot ARRI Log C3 with an upcoming firmware update, though you will need to buy the DMW SF3 upgrade key to get access to it. Regardless, this is a cool addition, and I can't wait to test it out in these cameras. There will also be a firmware update coming that will enable the S1R II, S1 II and the S1 IIe to use multiple frame markers at the same time. This will be great when shooting 3x2 and wanting to frame and deliver for both 16x9 and 9x16, which has become all too common now. The S1 II and the IIe are also compatible with Panasonic's optional XLR2 top units, which not only provide XLR inputs and much better physical audio controls, but also the ability to record 32-bit float audio, which is still, for some reason, very rare to see in cameras. This top unit isn't compatible with the S5 II or the IIX. When it comes to connectivity as well, the S1 II and IIe have built-in wireless live streaming capabilities, are UVC and UAC compliant, which will make them easy to use as a webcam or for streaming through something like OBS, and can be timecode synced via Bluetooth with the UltraSync Blue. They also both have the new Cine-like A2 color profile, which the S5 IIs do not. The S1 IIs are also compatible with Panasonic's LUMIX Flow app, which is more tailored towards video content creators. The S1 IIs also have updated autofocus systems, with a new urban sports subject tracking mode for sports like dancing, football, skateboarding and parkour. High frame rate autofocus is also improved with the new cameras over the S5 IIs. We tested this side by side and there's a night and day difference. Panasonic stabilization was already class leading, and the S1 II system is even better than the one in the S5 IIs. The S1 IIe and S1 II are both rated for up to 8 stops of stabilization and feature their new cropless mode that the S5 IIs don't have. This new mode corrects distortion at the edges of the frame without cropping the image, whereas the standard and high modes crop into your field of view to help give you a more stable image. This is a decent improvement over the S5 II system, though the S5 IIs is still very good. The S1 II cameras also have new extended control of the manual focus parameters of L-mount lenses. This includes the direction of the focus ring rotation and the ability to control what the focus ring does when you're in autofocus. This means you can assign something like aperture control to your lens when using autofocus, and then when you hit manual focus, this changes back to manual focus, which is a cool way to make use of the control ring when you're not needing it for focus. The S5 II cameras do not have these features. The S1 II and IIe also have a new copy and backup function, which allows you to take your rushes from the internal media of your camera and offload them onto an external SSD, which you can connect via the USB-C port on the side of the camera. This is such a great new feature. It will be really good for filmmakers and photographers wanting to offload while on location without using a laptop or another offload device. The S1 IIe also has a bunch of photography features and spec improvements over the S5 IIX as well. This includes a slightly improved mechanical shutter frame rate of 10 frames per second over the S5 IIX's 9, though they do share the same maximum of 30 frames per second when using the electronic shutter mode. The S1 IIe is also Capture One compatible, can shoot HEIF compressed images, has a new AI auto white balance function, and a multiple exposure mode. All of these features the S5 II doesn't have, whereas all of the S5 II's features are crammed into the S1 IIe. They are both great stills cameras though and can capture good looking imagery very competently. The S5 IIX is priced at £1,795 and the S1 IIe is priced at £2,399. So is the extra £600 for the S1 IIe worth it? Well, it depends. The S1 IIe is the best version of the sensor used in the S5 II cameras. It has loads of features crammed into it, can record in almost too many different video formats, has the best stabilization that Panasonic have done, features a robust autofocus system while being able to capture the familiar great image of the S5 II cameras. But the S5 IIX can do a bunch that the S1 IIe can do, but obviously with the restrictions that we've mentioned in this video. £600 is quite a chunk. It could be a lens, some more media, or really any other camera accessories. Whether it's worth the extra depends on how tight your budget is and what your priorities are as a creative. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and if you want to buy anything you see in this video or any other filmmaking or photography gear, head over to cvp.com where our experienced team is waiting to help you. So next we have the two new S-series cameras, the S1 II and the S1 IIE. These share quite a lot, which we've covered in the S5 IIX comparison. They use the same body design, media, battery, menu system, updated autofocus systems, and range of updated video and photography features. But they have one big difference, the sensors that they use, and this changes a lot. As we mentioned earlier, the E features similar sensor technology to the S5 II and IIX, whereas the S1 II features a new partially stacked full-frame 24 megapixel sensor, which means this sensor is faster than non-stacked sensors, but slower than fully stacked sensors like the ones found in the Nikon Z8 or Z9. This means that Panasonic have managed to pull some impressive speed out of the S1 II. It can shoot up to 70 frames per second in its electronic shutter mode, whereas the S1 IIE tops out at 30 frames per second, though both of them are limited to 10 frames per second when in mechanical shutter mode. The S1 II is also faster than the S1 IIE when shooting 14-bit stills in both mechanical and electronic shutter modes. It also means that the S1 II is faster in video as well. When it comes to high frame rate video, the S1 II can capture 60 frames per second in 6K, up to 120 in 3.3 and 4K, and 240 in Full HD, whereas the S1 IIE can only shoot 6K up to 60 frames per second in a 2.4:1 aspect ratio, 4K up to 60, and Full HD up to 180. So there are clear differences between the two. However, the slow motion footage from both of them looks really good. The S1 II also has a faster readout speed compared to the S1 IIE. In the 6K 3x2 open gate, we can see that the S1 II has a speed of just under 16 milliseconds, whereas the S1 IIE is much higher at just over 26 milliseconds. The S1 II's readout speed does increase when you enable the dynamic range boost mode, whereas the S1 IIE does not feature a boost mode function. This boost mode gives the S1 II an extra stop's worth of dynamic range at the expense of readout speed. So in situations where you can shoot and be happy with a higher readout speed, you can get even more dynamic range than it already has. We managed to test the latitude of both of these cameras, which we cover in our more in-depth S1 II review, but long story short, between these two cameras, the S1 II does win out with its boost mode on and off. If you want to see how these cameras compare to some other cameras as well, check out our full video, links to which are in the description. Both cameras have dual base ISOs, but they are slightly different. When shooting in Panasonic's Vlog profile, the S1 II's is 640 and 5000 with boost mode off, and 1000 with boost mode on, and the S1 IIE's is 640 and 4000. They are decently comparable and just as versatile. You have nice high second ISOs, and 640 is a decent base. One thing worth noting is that 1000 ISO on the S1 II with the boost mode on is a bit high, but still workable with some NDs. The S1 II is priced at £2,899 and the S1 IIE is £2,399. So that's a £500 difference between them. As we've spoken about, these two cameras share a lot, but I think there are clear differences in major video performance and image quality characteristics that do warrant that £500 difference. The S1 II is Panasonic's most well-balanced hybrid camera that they have now, and has some seriously impressive video specifications and performance, while also handling as brilliantly as you would expect from a LUMIX camera. The S1 IIE is still a great camera, and offers a lot that the S1 II does, but if you want that leap in image quality, video specs, and slightly better photography specs, I think the extra £500 is definitely worth it. Lastly, let's talk about the difference between the S1 II and the also recently released S1R II. Seeing as the S1R II is also incredibly new, it will be receiving a firmware update to get a bunch of new features that the S1 II currently has that it does not. This is good and really means that the choice between these two cameras is made a lot easier, especially considering that they are priced at just £100 apart. Like the S1 II and IIe, these cameras also share a lot of the key great things that the Mark II S1 cameras have that we've spoken about in this video, but the big differences are the sensors that they use. The S1R II uses a 44.3 megapixel backside illuminated CMOS sensor with a resolution of 8144 by 5424, which is much higher resolution than the 24.1 megapixel one found in the S1 II. This means that the S1R II can capture nice detailed video and photos, but does have quite a high sensor readout speed in certain modes compared to the S1 II. It's also got a little bit less dynamic range and lower frame rate options compared to the S1 II as well. The S1R II caps out at 30 frames in 8.1K, 60 in 5.9K, and 120 in both 4K and Full HD, whereas the S1 II can go up to 60 in 5.9K, 120 in 3.3 and 4K, and 240 in Full HD. They both have the option to toggle between different base ISOs and enable a dynamic range boost mode, but they work a little bit differently. On the S1R II, the dual base ISO in Vlog is 200 and 1000 with boost mode off, and 4000 and 2000 with it on. On the S1 II, it is 640 and 5000 with boost mode off. However, when you enable boost mode, you are limited to just one base ISO, which is 1000. This means working with this camera outside when in this mode can be quite challenging, as you need some really strong NDs. They both can provide excellent images though. It just depends if you want to sacrifice the detailed imagery of the S1R II for the bump in dynamic range and frame rates of the S1 II. Personally, I think for most hybrid but video focused creators, 6K is an excellent sweet spot. However, for more photography focused users wanting that extra resolution, the S1R II is a fantastic hybrid system with the same excellent features as the S1 II once the new firmware comes out. So I hope this video has helped you understand the differences between all of these different Panasonic cameras. There is a lot of crossover between them all, but I think there is also clear separation between them as well. Which kit is right for you will depend on what you need, and we can help you create the perfect package for your creating needs. If you want to come in and test these out for yourself, you can book an appointment at our UK and European showrooms where you can get your hands on and test these cameras, rig them up, and check out some lenses with one of our knowledgeable technical consultants. If you want to book an appointment, drop demo@cvp.com and email. Anyway, let us know if you have any other questions about these cameras in the comments. And if you like the video, please give it a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.